Welcome to Literally Books, a podcast where we read literally anything because it shouldn't be a saga to find your next favorite read. I'm Lindsay.
My name is Magda.
And today we have the absolute pleasure to talk with Anna Reardon about her debut novel, Wethersfield Road.
Woo! It's over there somewhere if you can see it in the camera.
It's such a cute cover. I can't wait to talk to her about it. It's little baby Anna. But before we get started, Magda, what are you reading?
We just kind of came out of a very heavy recording marathon type of thing. So I haven't started reading anything for my own pleasure. I've enjoyed all the books. That's not what I'm saying. I've loved all the books that we read. It's just that we just came out of reading Katabasis, whatever you want to call it.
Katabasis, yeah.
I haven't picked up anything else. I don't want to say too much about this because we are going to have an episode on this on October 15th or something along those lines. So just stay on the team. Just be aware about it. We'll put it up in our schedule whenever it comes out. But it's a really good one. We enjoyed it. What about you?
We did enjoy it. And we both had to read it like marathon because we were in DC right before, and so yeah, we really put ourselves under the gun. Like, that's a 550-page book that we were reading in 4 days, so we really did not have time to read anything else.
Oh my god, Lindsay, yesterday and the last day and a half, I had just been doing socials because we try to stay ahead of our socials, and I was like, why is this taking me so long? Like, it never takes me this long. And it's because normally during the weekday I have time to work and start adding socials. And we had to read like over 100 pages of Katabasis every single night. And after working, over 8-hour days in our regular jobs, it's a lot.
Like it's champagne problems, but it was intense. It meant that.
It was like we were working on our own thesis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What about you? What have you been reading?
So I was in the same boat as you, but I just started a new book last night. Like, the thrill that I get from being able to pick a book just at random, like,
I'm so
just off my shelf, off my TBR. And so in honor of spooky season, I started The Bell Witches by Lindsey Kelk.
I'm so excited. And it's supposed to be a duology, I think, or I forget how many books she said that
there
were
multiple books. I don't remember. Yeah. She was so Magda and I got to see her, and she was so charming. And the book is, at first I was like, I don't know, like, am I gonna like this? There are some like very modern references. Like, she talks about like Instagram and Taylor Swift, and I was like, oh no, is this gonna distract me? And then I found myself sitting there today being like, I'm really excited to get back to that book. So
that's the best feeling. I'm so excited for you. That's awesome.
It's gonna be good. Anyway.
So jealous. I can't wait to go to, and I'm traveling this weekend when we're recording this. So I'm so excited because that's when I do most of my reading. So I can't wait to get that feeling that you're getting of like just speaking something from your bookshelf.
It's so exciting. The world at your fingertips.
Unless Livy comes through and it's like, you have 1 week to read this, which has happened before.
Same. Yeah. I know sometimes I need that pressure though, so I can't like dilly-dally.
Yeah, same. All right, you want to take a little bit of a break and then we'll be right back?
Let's do it.
Welcome back, everybody. So now we're going to do a quick little discussion about Wethersfield Road, just some high-level general thoughts from us. We're going to try to do our best to not give you guys any spoilers because the book has not come out yet. This is set to be released on September 30th, just so we're clear on that. So we're going to just sell you on the idea of reading it before we discuss it. Maybe not. That's a terrible idea.
Some light spoilers. Some light spoilers, I would say, because we are giving a recap. But yeah.
Well, yeah. Very mild. Very mild. All right. So let's start out with a quick synopsis. Lindsay, do you want to get us started?
You betcha. Amelia Glickman is a person who seems, on paper, to live a dream life. She is young, pretty, wealthy, and doing her best to live an idealized adult existence.
Lurking beneath the surface, however, is a legacy of traumas that has led Amelia to a relationship with addiction, love addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and food issues.
After an accident during a riding competition injures Amelia's horse, she begins to question her current path.
The novel follows her evolution from a young woman to a sober adult. Even though I don't think I can say that I have struggled with addiction or that, food issues that much. Like, I think all of us have grown up, at least you and I have grown up in an era that we were under a lot of pressure to look a certain way or act a certain way. And I think we can kind of see Amelia going through the story. So I related to some of those thoughts quite a bit as I was reading through the story.
Yeah, one of the things that I think, I mean, we'll talk to, I keep wanting to say Amelia, but I know it's
Amelia?
Anna because Amelia is Anna's stand in a lot of ways. But I think like what Anna does so well is really talk about this from a perspective that is, yes, it's about addiction, but also it's just about how young adults cope with things. And sometimes, I mean, more often than not, they pick the wrong ways to cope with things. Like she talks about having addiction with drugs, but she also talks about like her relationships and having like a love addiction and things like that. And so I find it to be like extremely thoughtful and relatable just about youth and not just about her particular experience. I don't know if, I mean, it's kind of what you were saying.
If you feel like you haven't struggled with a lot of like these heavy addiction topics, this is still a book that you're going to find relatable because of the way that she thinks about issues and tries to kind of resolve them if possible.
And I think it's interesting because I don't think that's by accident. Like, well, I think we should talk to Anna about this, but she is a therapist by trade. And so I think that she has probably more self-awareness than your average person in recovery and more self-awareness than your average person, like just about her own life. And that comes through so much in her writing.
Maybe let's talk about some of the themes that the readers are going to find here in this book. And I think the first one is very heavily, it's going to be toxic relationships. Now it could be with humans, it could be with food, it could be with many other things. But I thought that was kind of interesting how it's such a real thing when we think that we find somebody that gives us a little bit of inkling that they like us. And then we have that tendency to just like do everything for them and cope with their behavior when sometimes that behavior is not acceptable.
There were so many points in this book where like Amelia is someone with, I would say like maybe an anxious attachment style. Like she meets people that are so obviously wrong for her or like wrong for anyone. And like immediately it was like, I want that one. I want that one to like give me validation and love in any given moment. And like, ooh, if I didn't relate to that, like you can see the train wreck coming. And she's so honest about like what you do wrong when you encounter those people. Like you text them too much. You like make excuses for their bad behavior. You ignore every red flag. Like she covers that so well that I was like, oh, I'm like cringing for myself, my young self.
The text fights are so relatable, or just like screaming matches. And then you just kind of go back and you just like, we're not going to be dealing with the underlying issue of this. We're just going to move on and pretend that nothing happened, but the issue's still there. It's a problem. One of my favorite things was Amelia in this book has a roommate or gets a roommate at some point. His name is Ethan. And the way that he describes it, it's my favorite thing that he says. It's like, when you're wearing rose-colored glasses, red flags just look like decorations. And I was just like, this is the most real quote ever.
May we all be blessed in life with an Ethan. Like such a good friend.
Yes. And I loved it because he was the type of person also going through recovery, but he set up his boundaries from the beginning. And that was also something that I really loved from a lot of Amelia's friends in here. They knew their boundaries and they were there to support her throughout this journey, which I found it to be really lovely.
Yeah, this is a book where like support systems and what they look like what good versions of support systems and bad versions of support systems really look like. Like she has such good counterpoints. Like for every shitty boyfriend, she has her dad or her sister or someone that's like, this is what this love should be like, just showing up consistently without conditions,
Exactly. And then, as she started her recovery journey, just surrounding herself with like-minded people that are going through the same thing and struggling with similar things, but are in the right, in the right path. That's just so helpful for them because they were able to kind of help her, encourage her to try to kind of make better decisions or kind of helping her out or keeping her accountable for what they knew she was about to potentially die, deeper feet again into. And they're like, no, let's not do that. Maybe let's rethink our actions and rethink the way that we want to do it.
And then, of course, we have my other favorite theme in this book, which is our nonverbal support system.
I love a good animal healing support system. So we have Hope. I know. We have Hope the horse, and then we have Delilah the dog. I wonder what it is about animals that many of us find so therapeutic. for like a lot of our healing journey, in particular for horses too. I mean, obviously dogs, like we love them, but horses is such a new, like, I don't want to call it like a new age therapy, but kind of it is. Like a lot of people going through a lot of hard times are kind of dipping their feet into this horse therapy. And I find it so fascinating because these are beautiful animals. So I wonder what it is about them that gives this calming, you know, central energy. I don't know.
I don't know. I find horses terrifying. Like I used to ride horses and I find them even then I was like it was always like a battle of my brain being like this thing is so big it could like kill me at any given moment and it doesn't. I think maybe that's part of it, you know? I don't know.
Maybe that's what. Oh, I didn't know that. I love horse. I grew up riding horses too. I mean, guys, I'm coming from Colombia, so there's
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
say
places you
classic
can only.
Colombian right
Yeah,
there.
it's not because I grew up privileged or anything. It was a method of transportation for many towns. So they're amazing. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like I think I just love like we get a lot of support system from very many different things, like you mentioned, like from our animals, pets, family, friends, recovery. And I think that's kind of what I really appreciated about the book. It's that it talks about the importance of having that type of like coping support system around you to kind of allow for you to have a successful recovery journey. And recovery is a lifelong journey. It's not something that is just you turn on the switch and then potentially you're just okay, I'm fixed forever. No, it's a daily struggle. And I love that at some point in this book, Amelia, when she's struggling a little bit, she thought, she's like, I thought when I was gonna be sober my depression was gonna go away. And it's like, no, that's not really it. Like you're still gonna have to find other coping mechanisms to be able to handle other areas of your life, and it's not dealing with drugs or food or any of the other things. So I found that really lovely how she still encourages that it's a lifelong journey. It's not something that is going to be fixed right at the top, but I still found the book to be really hopeful.
I did too. And I also just like I mean, I love that Hope the horse is Amelia's rock bottom in some ways, you know, like
Yes.
her transgression and the horse, like the horse gets injured. This happens very early on in the book. And it is the impetus for Amelia realizing like I have made a transgression in a relationship that isn't an equal power balance, you know, like Amelia is in control of Hope in some ways in a way that you're not in control to that extent of like your relationships with your, you know, parents or your sister. And so I think like that moment where she's like, holy crap, like I could have really hurt this like very innocent creature that I have nothing but love for, being the source of that change is like very smart from a writing perspective, but also like very beautiful and relatable.
I'm so glad you called that out, Lindsay, because that to me, it's a sign that she's a good
Good
person.
person.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like I don't trust anybody if they are hurting animals or they don't care for them. So to me, that was just like, okay, I'm rooting for her because she cares deeply about these creatures that are just so innocent. So I love that.
Okay. Because she's about to join, can I also just quickly say my favorite part of the book because I want to ask her about
Yeah.
it, but I want to like read an entire page. Can I read an entire page basically to you?
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
so one of the things that we learn from Amelia throughout the book is like she is someone who seeks external validation in a lot of ways. Like she wants to be a performer, she likes riding horses competitively, and like a lot of that is because like as a young person, you want that external validation that you're like impressive and pretty and like whatever. And she introduces this concept of a national park person versus an amusement park person when she's talking with her therapist. And I just think it's like the coolest comparison ever. So I just want to read it because I want to ask Anna about it, but I want to put it in context for our listeners. And I'm going to make you
All
listen to me, and I'm
right.
sorry. Okay, she says, Dr. B smiled warmly. You know, I think there's something to be said about the difference between an amusement park and a national forest. Amusement parks are shiny and fun in an obvious way. You go there and you pretty much know what to expect. People go there to have a good time, to get that feeling in their stomach when there's a big drop on a roller coaster, to win some prizes and marvel at the lights on the Ferris wheel. But what about the people who aren't fans of amusement parks? What about the people who would rather visit a national forest, a place where the beauty is natural, subtle, full of wonder, a wild place that buzzes with the hum of aliveness, that houses something as raw and as real as the force of nature itself? You are a force of nature, Amelia. And so I just think like, holy shit, that's such a good comparison of two different kinds of people, you know?
It really is. And I think you can be I think sometimes you could be both types of
1000.
person, but sometimes like the forest person is the one that is your true self, and only a certain type of people get to know your true self. So that's so sweet.
That's such a good addition to that thought. Like maybe you surface as an amusement park, but you're actually a natural forest. Oh, that's so smart, Magda.
You need to dig deeper.
Oh my gosh.
It was lovely.
Any last thoughts before we get to talk to Anna about this?
I think I really loved somebody that has had, I don't know what to call it, like issues with food, but has kind of like straddled that line of like, oh, I'm not going to be eating for a couple of, over 24 hours to see what happens. I really love her portrayal of how real like food issues can be, and how much of a slippery slope that can be without the proper help. So I really love that. And not to just kind of keep singing, like just reading quotes because I loved it, but like one of my favorite things is one of the conversations she had with her grandmother in this book about her body and food. And she talks about how bodies are a political statement. Like, she's like, can you imagine if women didn't have to worry about what they look like? We'll be like a force to be reckoned with. Like, I just love that so much. Like how, I don't know, like I just love her grandmother as a character in here. And I love the conversations and the things how she wrote about the body issues that a lot of us might struggle with.
There were so many like sleeper hit moments for like the female experience that I was like, oh my God, my like psyche can't handle this.
Yes.
And there's so much like we didn't even talk about, like Wethersfield Road as a place, being a magical place for her. Like
it's very woo-woo, guys. It's very woo-woo.
It is like this healing. Yeah, it is. What's that Disney movie? It's like the house from Encanto, you know? Like,
yes.
Like,
casita.
Yes.
And she does call it casita a couple times in the book.
Like it does give that vibe a little bit for me. Anyway, it's like it's a beautiful framing for a story that I think is, like, to your point, it's just, there are bits and pieces of it that any person, especially a person our age, would relate to. All right, should we take a little break and then come back with Anna herself?
Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody. So now we are joined by Anna Binder Reardon. Yay! Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
Mine is over there. Maybe I should have placed it a little closer. But it's
no
there.
One can see this that's listening. We do this every episode.
I like it.
It looks beautiful.
It's just a part of the background we love.
Exactly.
It's such a good cover, too. It's just very cute. Yes, not to judge a book by its cover, but if we were, it'd be a really good one. So
we kind of do, though. I kind of judge a book by its cover.
I absolutely do. So
yeah.
Okay, should we get us started with the bio?
Let's do it.
Sorry, we're going to read to you about you, Anna.
I love it.
Anna Binder Reardon is an author and former therapist who writes novels and personal essays about people in therapy. With a master's in counseling and years of clinical experience, she brings both professional and personal insights to her storytelling. Her debut novel, Wethersfield Road, follows a young woman's journey through trauma, mental illness, and addiction, reflecting Anna's passion for destigmatizing mental health and highlighting the beauty of life's imperfections. She lives in Austin, Texas with her husband, their golden retriever Jax, and their corgi mix Oliver, and can often be found reading, traveling, or in pursuit of the perfect oat milk vanilla latte. Welcome again.
Before we jump into our official questions, what is the best place in Austin to get an oat milk vanilla latte? I need to know this.
My personal favorite is Epoch on North Loop.
Ooh, okay.
Epoch on North Loop.
That is close to us.
Oh, that's my favorite neighborhood in Austin and my favorite coffee shop in Austin. But everything I get there is amazing.
And Epoch does have a little shout out in the book too. I remember reading
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, it's in the book. Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I said it, but it sure is.
This episode sponsored by Epoch Coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
Austin landmarks too, because I had to stop reading once you called out Chili's on 45th Street. I'm like, it should be a national landmark at this point.
100%.
Historical site for sure.
Yeah. There's like a day dedicated to it.
Really?
That's what my husband told me that, and I was like, that's not real. And he was like, it is real.
It feels
It's like
right.
a holiday.
Yeah. It's a very special day when we get to go to 45 Chili's on 45th and Lamar. Like that's a real
100%.
place.
It's a treat.
Magda knows I hate a chain restaurant except for that Chili's. So
I am with you.
Like they have the best frozen drinks, the best tortilla chips. I don't know, they're really good.
The triple dipper,
Yes, so good.
superior.
So good. I don't know what they put in it. It's so good.
Oh, so good.
But before we keep going and talking a little bit about the book, we normally start all over most of our interviews with asking all of the authors this. What was the book that made you a reader?
Oh, wow. That's such a good question. I think the book that made me a reader was probably Charlotte's Web. Um, my mom would read Charlotte's Web to me, and she loved it so much. And I just loved all the animals, and I loved the story, and I loved the way it made me feel. It was something that I would pick up when I felt sad. So yeah, I think Charlotte's Web would be the book that made me a reader.
Can I
that
tell
question
you?
is go ahead, Magda.
No, I
Yeah.
was gonna say I don't. When you said that, like it just did not surprise me at all because the way that you wrote about it in the book, like with the love for your animals and
Mhm,
the emotion that kind of comes through, it just kind of
mhm.
makes total sense. Sorry,
Yeah.
Lindsay.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like we asked that question because it's like literally such a litmus test for the personality of the person because like that book is
Yeah.
about empathy and you are a very empathic person, so it makes total sense.
I love that book, and yeah, my mom loved it, and yeah,
I
the
was scared that
best.
you were gonna say Catcher in the Rye because that book does get mentioned a lot in this book. But
It does
hey,
get mentioned. I thought it was I mean, it's great, but I was like, "This is the best book ever," and then I, like, grew up, and I was like, "Oh."
but it's okay. You made it over to the Jane Austen world afterwards, so
Yeah,
I'm okay.
exactly. You're forgiven. We all make
Yes.
mistakes.
You saw the light. It's
Yeah,
good.
100%.
Um, what were you reading or listening to or watching while you were writing this book, and what truly inspired the story here?
That's a great question too. I had just come out of a few years of doing clinical work. So all I had read were clinical textbooks and research and journals and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not a reader anymore. Like I don't read for pleasure anymore. And I started reading Red, White, and Royal Blue about 2 weeks after I left my job. And I was like, "I wanna write a book." I this book it's so fun, I can't put it down. It's like this world that I wish were real, just everything in it, and it just brought me so much joy, and it made me start writing, actually, and anything by Casey McQuiston, I read The Pairing when it came out, but yeah, that's always what comes to mind when I'm asked a question like that, but also just, I love y'all's podcast because I'm the same way. I will read literally anything, memoirs, novels, whatever it is. And I think a lot of times too, when I would get done with like a heavy day of writing, I would read like smut and just like turn my brain off and read all the smut. And it was so nice.
No shame on that here because
Oh
I
yeah,
think, yeah, we read a little bit of everything because I feel like
100%.
that just kind of expands your world a little bit if you get to see other people's perspective. But yeah, like I think to Lindsay's point earlier, like you're such an oh my God, empathetic person. There you go. I did it, guys. I survived. That, yeah, I think that makes sense that you read a little bit of everything.
You mentioned this a little bit when you were talking about Red, White, and Blue, but we're going to steal this question because we heard this at a panel a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, oh, that's so smart. What were you feeling? Like, what is the primary emotion that you were operating off of while you were writing?
Mm, I think the first thing that comes to mind is tenderness. Like, just like almost like achy. You know what I mean? Tenderness, I think, is the word that comes to mind. And, I don't make it a secret that this is very much, based on a lot of my own experiences. And Yeah, I was doing EMDR therapy at the time, and it would be like I would have a session, and then some of that would like some of the feelings, and obviously it's fiction, but like some of the feelings would go in the book, and it was very tender. It felt very raw, but not in like a scary like I'm re-traumatizing myself way, just kind of like a sacred way almost.
That is a brave, like truly a shock to the heart, that answer, because that is a brave emotion to be operating off of when you are writing something so deeply personal. Okay, so then because we're talking about this and because it is the page that I read to Magda aloud, can you talk to us a little bit about the creation of a national parks person versus an amusement park
Mm.
person and how that idea came to be? And just like literally, you could just spend the next 25 years talking to us about that concept, and I would be happy to listen to it.
It changed my life, man. That is something that a therapist said to me. There's so much in here that, and that's why my acknowledgments is like a mile long because it's like these are real life lessons that I've been taught by real people. And that was a therapist that I saw when I was first getting sober. And I remember just being like, I'm wrong. Like I'm wrong. I'm not right. There's something wrong. And she was like, well, if you keep trying to be the freaking amusement park, you're always going to feel wrong. Why don't you just let yourself be who you are? Maybe that's more like a forest or a park or whatever it is. And it changed my whole life. I've thought about it, almost every day since when I'm trying to be something that I'm not. And I've shared it with friends. I've shared it with other women that I'm close with. And everyone relates to it, and to the point where I'm like, who is the amusement park? Because I don't know any of them anymore.
Magda said something I thought was so interesting. And maybe I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, where she was like, maybe you are like an amusement park person versus a national park person at different points, or like you surface as an amusement park, but really you feel like a national park. I don't know. It just works so well.
It really does, and it's so interesting because I do think there are days I wake up and I'm the amusement park, and I kind of like, I'm very outgoing, I'm very like, "Let's be social, let's do this, let's do that, let's," get that dopamine, right? Like, all of that stuff, and then there's that piece of me that's more steady, more sure, more centered and grounded, and, yeah, you can fluctuate between the 2 100%.
Do you feel like that changed, like your relationship to between being an amusement park person and a national park person, or even Amelia? Actually, let's put it in the
Mhm.
context of the book. You, Amelia,
Sure.
you are not the same people.
Mhm.
Both and either of you. Do you think that changed throughout the scope of their growing up? Like, did they move from one to the other? Do you think at some point Amelia felt like an amusement park when she grew more into herself?
Mhm. Yeah, I think, like, the amusement park aspect, I see a lot as, like, her theater background and, trying really hard to be, like, shiny and exciting and pull focus and, that the audition scene where she talks about the tap dancing clown and just like, "Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, please look at me, so I can exist." That's kind of how I think she saw that, and I think as she evolves and kind of grounds into her national forest self, she realizes like, "Oh, maybe I can go to the amusement park and just kinda ride the rides." Like, maybe I don't have to be the main attraction. Maybe I can just have fun at the amusement park. And that is, I think, a really important aspect of it.
Now that you brought it up, that scene where she was doing the audition, it broke my heart when they told her at
Oh,
the end, like, you're just trying too hard. And it was just like, but isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? Like, it was just so
100%.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, auditions are brutal, and the people who go on doing them for a living, I, whew,
Bless her heart.
bless their hearts, 100%. They do it for the love of the game for sure.
Yep. I kind of wanted to also just ask it because I mean, Hope, the horse, and Delilah, the dog, are such key characters in this
Yes.
story. They're like lifelines for Amelia in this story. And how do you see the role of animals in healing trauma here?
Mm. I honestly, like, this might be kind of like a, yeah, obviously not everyone has access to animals or being around animals as they're healing, but I honestly think like some form of nature is almost necessary to healing trauma. Um but animals, they just pick up on stuff that we don't. They just do. I think they are, I like to say that animals are missing an ego. Like, they don't have that thing of like, I need to be better than. They have like instinct, sure, like, oh, I need to eat, I need to run, I need to, all that stuff. But they don't have that thing that we have, that ego that like separates us from each other. And I think like when we're healing from something traumatic, that really resonates with us. It's like a frequency that we can like connect with and feel safe with because there's just no room for anything but the truth.
We were talking about that before we started. We were talking about the book and the fact that, like, really a turning point for Amelia is when Hope gets injured during a
Yes.
competition. Like, were you thinking about that consciously about the fact that Hope has no ego is maybe more impactful to Amelia than it would be if she had something happen with her sister, for example, or her mom?
Totally. Totally. It's like almost like I think she has a block of like she cannot feel empathy for humans. And so I think it's like I think it's in one of the early chapters where she's like, I'm gonna go drive to this bar and I've been drinking. And she makes the like really uh in poor taste joke about like, I drive drunk all the time, but I never ride drunk. And I think that's a really interesting, like, she cannot empathize or conceptualize or consider other people, but when it's an animal, it's the only thing that could have broken through.
Is it?
Sorry. Oh, you go, Magda. Sorry, go.
No. I was just like, what does it say about me? Because I'm like, I kind of relate to that. Like, I feel like more empathetic towards animals than I do towards humans at times, which is a problem.
I know, it's like when you watch the Titanic and you see the dogs and you're like,
Yes, not the
"No." That's
dogs.
literally me. 100%. That's me.
But
I'm a
then
terrible person.
here you're not though. And this is what I was thinking about as you were saying that, because I was like, if you think about Amelia's relationship outside of her family, which like I want to talk about those relationships in a second, but like even the adults in the audition scene, or like I want to talk for 10 years about Amelia's relationships and how those relationships treat her at various points. It sort of
Mm,
makes sense. You're like, people have let her down so often
sure.
that it makes
Sure.
sense that wouldn't break through, and it
Yeah,
just comes through so
100%.
clearly that I think a lot of people feel like that, like the
No, that's a
animals
really
do
good
no wrong.
point. Oh, they really don't. They have no agenda. Even when they cause harm, it's so innocent. They really don't mean to. Yeah, they're the purest souls we have for sure.
But like I kind of love like one of the earlier points you made that okay, you may not have access to an animal, but it's also about that connection with nature itself, like itself, because you do make a lot of references to that here, like when you're just looking up into the sky and seeing like a
Yeah.
little star, or connecting
Yeah.
with the wind and how great that
Yeah.
feels in life. So it's just all of those little moments that kind of help put things into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
On what is kind of worth it, but what's worth it for us to kind of to continue on. I just found that to be really lovely.
100%. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with Augustin Burroughs, but he's one of my favorite authors of all time. And his memoir Dry, about getting sober, is like one of my beacon books. Like it's one of my favorite books of all time. It's my editor calls it a beacon book. Like I want my book to emulate this in some way, or just kind of pull from it in some way. But Dry, he has this quote where he's talking about like, as a person in recovery, we can sometimes want these kind of burning bush, really intense experiences to like kind of yank us out of ourselves and bring us back to the world. But really, if we think about it, we're wanting the glass of water to rise up off the table. But if you think about it, the miracle is that there's a glass at all in the first place, and that it doesn't just float up and away. And I'm probably butchering that quote. It's my favorite quote ever. But it's just, if I shift my perspective and I'm like, oh my God, the moon's just like in the sky. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, when I can be in awe of nature, I'm a little more okay than I was before, for sure.
Oh, that's such a perfect, or like, yeah, just like the nature of personhood, that you're like,
Yes.
this particular arrangement of carbon and like amino acids and DNA, like here I am. And it's such a confluence of like super small statistical likelihoods. And then here we are talking about this
Totally.
book.
Totally. Yeah, I have a magnet on my fridge that says, "You're a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton. What do you have to be scared of?" I don't know what that's from, but it hits.
That's the tagline for this book.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But but with that, I think that kind of leads us into like another area, which is like the book is a little woo woo at times, and like how
Oh,
things
yeah.
come at you at the right time. The perfect house. We were like Lindsay and I were calling it before you joined us. That like it's like a little casita almost, like from Encanto.
Yes.
That it's so
Yeah.
so beautiful. I mean, like it just kind of came at the right time that you needed it, and it
Yep.
looked out for
Yep.
you. And just
Totally.
other things when you were looking for signs to kind of allow you
Yeah.
to make certain decisions. And
Totally. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that.
like the forces of good, and
Yes.
the house being like a fairy godmother kind of in a lot of ways. And yeah, it is. It's very woo-woo.
Listen, we love woo woo. Like,
We
Yeah,
love
that's a
woo-woo.
compliment fully. Yeah.
so
We
I
love
would not be
woo-woo.
interested if it were not.
I mean, one of my like I've been in this like kick right now of reading books that are perfect for like witchy month, and like the things that I'm
Absolutely.
looking for is a magical house. Like, does it have a magical house? If not, I'm out.
Yeah,
And you
I'm not
fit into this
interested.
thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is. It's very like, it's kind of like an ode to like life is as woo-woo as you want it to be. You know what I mean? Like, every time I see a ladybug, I'm like, "Oh my God, the universe is talking to me." But other people are just like, there's a ladybug, cool." It's like you get to choose. You get to choose like what carries meaning for you.
You talk about it like when you're like trying to decide whether to go see one of these guys that it's a little bit of a toxic relationship, and you're like, there's this shooting star that's telling you don't go there, but you're like, I'm just gonna ignore that for now. And so choose your own
100%.
adventure. Oh,
Yep,
it made me laugh. That
absolutely.
moment made me laugh.
I will say, just because y'all are so fun, that is a true story. That
It
actually
felt
happened.
so true. Okay. Then we're going to move into our next question, which is like the other part of the book that I was like, I feel unwell in the depth to which I relate to this is your characterization of Amelia in relationships, which is
Oh,
like, she just picks people that are so unworthy of her. And I
mhm.
have to know, like, what was your process of creating these men? What, like,
Yeah.
I just, yeah, it's so relatable, deeply relatable.
I mean, I've lived in Austin since I was 7 years old, so I'm sure this is true of other cities, but it seems like we just have really, interesting men, that we all have dated, I was talking to somebody about this recently, she's like, "No, it's worse in Austin, for sure. I've lived other places." And I was like, "Oh, that's really validating." But yeah, those are all based on, like, I dated a lot of men in my 20s that were just interesting. I'm sure they've grown up, but they were interesting. And I just kind of put them all together and made like a caricature version of like all of those different aspects of those men. And I think that's why I loved having the contrast of Kat come in, of like, oh, she's literally the opposite of all these men, and she's a woman, literally. But yeah, just like something completely different to like clear the slate a little bit.
And Kat was like our communication girl. Like she was the one.
Yes.
I really appreciated that. So you did a really good job because yeah, she was fully opposite, and she just
Yeah.
like straight up told Amelia, like, here's what we can do, here's how it's gonna
Yep.
work. This is great.
100%.
While
Yeah.
the men were more like, I'm gonna assume that we're on the same page.
Exactly. 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 Yeah. It's uh, being a person and dating is hard. Relationships are like so hard. I was just talking to a friend on the phone before this of like, this is the hardest thing we navigate, romances and finances. And romances seem harder a lot of the time.
They're all equal. Sorry, go ahead, Magda.
No, I was gonna say, like, yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
I mean, finances are like, yeah, it's pretty black or white.
Exactly. It's black and white.
Yes. Okay, so since we're talking about relationships, I think I don't want to go too deep because I don't want to ruin too much of the book,
Sure.
but I think one of the things that we start the book out with is Amelia's very traumatic relationship with her
Yes.
partner in
Mhm.
a young age. And I think one of the beautiful parts about that book, or that moment in the book, is that you see this very real reality in contrast with what seems like this very idyllic life. Like she's
Mhm.
wealthy and pretty and like you talk about that in the book. You talk about
Mhm.
how she acknowledges that she's privileged and how little that mattered in this moment where she's in
Mhm.
this very real, dangerous situation with her partner.
Mhm.
How do you balance that when you're writing a character where she has like very real trauma, but she's also like she has access to resources? Like tell us about how you struck that balance when you were fleshing her out.
Absolutely. That's such a good question. And I spent a lot of time. I worked with an author coach who was also my editor, and we kind of would like talk through plot points and talk through like, okay, this is the direction I'm going in. So many times I was like, I'm scared she's not going to be likable. I'm scared that she's not going to be relatable because she does have so much privilege. But at the same time, it was this balance of like, well, she has a house and she has a horse and she has, all of these things, and being honest about that and being honest about like it felt like a disservice to the reader to act like these things she had were normal. Like, like it had to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? Like it had to be addressed like, okay, this horrible, scary thing could happen to anybody. And she had somewhere to go immediately. And that is just absolutely not true for most of the population.
Did you think about I love that you kept this in because I think it's such a good point about like just the real life experience. Like trauma doesn't care what your bank account says.
Sure. Sure.
But at any point were you thinking like, oh, I'll just take those away and make her like a normal gal? Or how did you land on this characterization?
Yeah, I definitely did think about that for sure. And, it it had a lot to do with my background and understanding that like I was raised in a lot of privilege, and like that's something that like I'm really big on like writing what you know, and like it felt disingenuine to write a book, fiction again, but based on my experiences, and act like I had hardships that I just didn't have, because it didn't feel like my story to tell. It feels like there are so many different lived experiences in the world, and the people with that lived experience should be writing those stories. You know what I mean? Even though it's fiction, if that makes sense.
Like I told you when we started the interview, like I was rooting for Amelia because you can kind of tell that at the root of this, like she's a good person and she's just struggling with all of these forces around her that are just kind of
Yeah,
allowing her to kind of make this type of decision. So
totally.
I think even with that, like I was rooting for her. Like I really wanted her to
Mhm.
make. I was yelling at her a
Yeah.
couple times where she was dating these dudes,
100%.
and I'm like,
Me
"Stop! Why
too.
are you doing this?"
Literally, yes.
Like the shooting star
100%.
means stay in your driveway. Do not drive to that man's
A
house.
100, like, what could it possibly mean other than turn around? Like, yeah, she is frustrating.
But you talk about it too, where like that recovery is not really about becoming perfect. It's more about
Mhm.
becoming honest. And what do you think readers should take away from like Amelia's journey?
I think, like, what I want people to take away is that it's a mosaic, and
Mhm.
there's gonna be chunks that seem really unrelated, or maybe, like, they don't belong or like it was a waste. And like nothing is a waste in recovery. Everything is either a blessing or a lesson, period. It is either something you will learn and grow from, or it's something that's gonna, evolve and be a part of your life. So I would say like trust the mosaic, and know that like later on you're gonna see the bigger picture and it's gonna be like, oh my God, that chunk, I had no idea, but it's part of the tree trunk or, whatever the picture ends up being.
I'm just gonna be using that knowing where like just look at my mosaic of life. I
Just look
just
at my
love that.
mosaic.
I think that's the perfect place to end it because
Cool.
it's so true. But before we end it, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can
Yeah.
get your lovely book.
Absolutely. So, you can buy Wethersfield Road anywhere where books are sold. You can pre-order it anywhere where books are sold. It will be out on September 30th. If you don't like buying from Amazon, because, I get that. We don't like buying from Amazon. You can also buy directly from my website. It's anna-writes.com. And I can send books directly from me and you get like a signed copy, and you can also order little goodies from my website as well. And if you're in the Austin area on September 30th, we're having a launch event at Birdhouse Books. It's my favorite little bookstore in Austin. And we would love to see you there.
Everyone needs to go to your website right now because one, your merch is so cute. And like Magda said, we'll be having a little giveaway, but you can see it. I am literally wearing a piece of the merch right now, which is a little bracelet. But two, I want everyone to go to your social media because we were going to ask you about this, but we're like, I don't want to keep you here until tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, you're fine.
Your social media is so good for the marketing of this book. Like it really is so strong, and everyone will do themselves a service by going to watch some of the promotion that you've done.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I'm at millennial author Anna. I'm really just doing my best. I'm so glad to hear it's coming off well because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Honestly, none of us are though. Like none of us do. We're just figuring it out.
We're just figuring it out as we go. 100%.
Adulting was a lie. Like when do you become an adult?
I'm still waiting, honestly.
One of the central premises of this book, if we're honest, like
100%.
Well, thank you so much, Anna, for joining us.
It's been so lovely. Y'all are awesome. And I'm so glad to finally get to actually talk to y'all instead of just on Instagram and socials.
It was so lovely to chat with you. Good luck with the book. Everybody go out and pre-order it. We'll put all of the links up in our socials as well. It was so lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast, where we say what we read.
And we mean what we say. Bye.